What is up, everybody? Liam Murphy back to recap the NFL Week 10 slate. Going to be looking at box scores, going to be looking at snaps, routes run, targets, all of that, courtesy of PFF. And two-part show. In the second half, we'll be talking best ball. So, I don't know, maybe go an hour and a half, 2 hours. We'll be looking at my best ball teams, talking some best ball as we approach the fantasy football playoffs. So, my internet's acting a little slow today, but I think we got everything loaded. I say as I click the share button and nothing is adding. Okay. Here we go. So, kicking things back to Thursday Night Football, best game of the week, some would say. The Ravens defeated the Bengals 35-34. We got an absolute explosion game out of Joe Burrow, 428 and 4. Insane. Chase Brown, 13 carries, 42 yards, 1 touchdown. No other running back getting a touch there. I mean, Khalil Herbert got a touch, fumbled, and then they tried out Leonard Fournette. So not a good sign for Khalil Herbert. He did recover his fumble. And then, of course, Jamar Chase, the man single-handedly carrying my best ball teams. 11 receptions, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. A reminder that he has just the highest ceiling in fantasy football. You know, maybe you could say Tyreek. But yeah, like Justin Jefferson, more consistent than Chase, sure. But no one can match the ceiling of Chase. It's just his route running combined with his yards after catch. Insane. Chase Brown also chipping in 9 receptions for 52 yards in the air. Tanner Hudson, one of their tight ends, got a touchdown. On the Ravens, Lamar Jackson continues to torch the league. 290 and 4 in the air for him. Insane. Derrick Henry, 16 carries, 68 yards, a touchdown. Rinse and repeat. Tylan Wallace, 115 and 1. He broke a long one for that. Mark Andrews, 668 and 1. Rashad Bateman, 654 and 1. Zay Flowers, a disappointing game. And then Nelson Aguilar got a touchdown. The usage here, notable that Keaton Mitchell, only 2 snaps this past week, but it's good to just see. Remember, Keaton Mitchell, their explosive running back, tore his ACL last year. I'm expecting his snaps to ramp up as the season goes, depending how he responds to returning from injury. Isaiah likely missed this game, so that means we got Mark Andrews playing a heavy amount of snaps, 55 snaps, 34 routes run, most on the team. Charlie Kolar, more of a blocking tight end, only 11 routes run for him. Nelson Aguilar, 19 routes. Deontay Johnson, he was acquired at the trade deadline. He played 5 snaps. He ran 3 routes. And then he tweeted something like, obviously just upset they didn't play enough. Like he said something like, there's 2 sides to every story. I mean, bro, you're on a winning team now. Maybe just enjoy the ride, I'm expecting his snaps to ramp up. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Deontay will be as valuable as a Raven in fantasy. He's not as good as Zay Flowers. He might be behind Mark Andrews. He should have some, like, a big game or two, but the consistency he was getting with Andy Dalton, probably not going to have that. For the Bengals, Jermaine Burton, first serious action for him. Great to see. The 3rd-round rookie. He did a bunch of boneheaded stuff last week, but 39 snaps, 32 routes, 5 targets. Notable that he got 5 targets, and then Andre Yoshivas played a lot more snaps and routes run and only got 4 targets. Andre Yoshivas, just like pure wind sprinter. Jermaine Burton also, like, when the Bengals needed like 1 or 2 yards, they were throwing fades to Burton for some reason. But yeah, with T. Higgins, probably not a Bengal next year. Maybe not playing the rest of the year. Who knows what's going on there? Not going to be surprised if Burton starts to play more over Yoshi Voss. The running back room continued to be all Chase Brown. That will change eventually, is my guess. But yeah, I do expect them to ride him in the short term, especially in important games, which, I mean, every game is important for the Bengals. They're not a playoff team right now. And then Gesicki, Sample, Hudson, they all played a lot with Eric All out for the season. Drew Sample, blocking tight end. He runs routes, but like it's only on dump offs he'll get targets. And Tanner Hudson may be a sneaky ad, 7 targets for him. He was good last year at times. Gesicki, 9 targets, didn't do anything with them. Moving on to the Sunday games. Panthers, Giants. This game we'll try to go quick for. Again, my internet is slow this morning for whatever reason. Don't know why. Maybe it's this. It will load. It'll just take a little bit. Well, whatever. We'll do the routes before we do the box score. Although I think here we got it. Daniel Jones, risk of being benched for Drew Lock. I mean, yeah, this is a reminder that Daniel Jones was a risky best ball pick all season. He has like injury guarantees or something like that, which just makes it seem that they're going to bench him to not pay that. Clearly a bust of a quarterback pick. The Giants got to be real happy to lose this game, though, because there was there's like 8 teams that were 2-7. And so losing the head-to-head tiebreak with the Panthers just almost guarantees them like a top 5 pick at worst in the NFL draft, where they're clearly going to try to get a new quarterback in town. Tyrone Tracy, a huge game, 18 carries, 103 yards, a touchdown. He did fumble in overtime, but, Giants fans were celebrating that because they want a higher draft pick. Daniel Jones got a rushing touchdown. None of the Giants wide receivers did much. Malik Neighbors, like awesome underlying stats, but just is not getting there as of late. The Panthers, Bryce Young played, a decent game for Bryce Young standards. 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, though, 28 carries, 153 yards, a touchdown. Jonathan Brooks activated off IR. They didn't play him. I'm guessing that has to do a little bit with the London game. Jatavian Sanders got a goal line touchdown, also was tackled at the 1. And Jalen Coker, 3 for 41. Usage, the notable thing here is that Coker played more snaps than David Moore, ran more routes. The week before, they had, Moore played more snaps than Coker, with Coker like pure slot. And so good sign for Coker's value. That he's playing more, getting more targets. Jatavian Sanders continues to dominate the tight end work. On the Giants, Isaiah Hodgins is getting in there. Like, I didn't even know he was still a Giant, to be honest with you. Darius Slayton was ruled out for this game, and so that is why we got Jalen Hyatt, 55 snaps, 34 routes, 4 targets. So, he's in the sacrificial X type clear out role. Wandale Robinson, 8 targets. Malik Neighbors, 10 targets. Theo Johnson continues to be, 6 targets, 35 routes run. Solid for a tight end. And then Tyrone Tracy playing a lot more than Singletary. A lot more routes, a lot more carries. All right, moving on to better games. Patriots beat the Bears. And we got a couple things to talk about here because as of this morning, the Bears fired Shane Waldron, their offensive coordinator. I mean, arguably they should have fired their head coach too, but hey, head coach clearly trying to keep his job, had to make this move. The Bears really have no excuse. They have Caleb Williams. They have great wide receivers. Their O-line's not the best, but like you can't blame the O-line for everything. And they're just terrible on offense. So hopefully firing Shane Waldron changes things, but Caleb needs to play better himself. Patriot stats, Drake May, 184 yards, a touchdown, also chipped in 24 yards onto the ground. Hey, Will, give me a break here. Ramondre, 20 carries, 74 yards, so he continues to get a huge workload. Austin Hooper, the backup, their second tight end, led the way in receiving. Terrible. Kayshon Boutte, 4 for 47. Demario Douglas, 4 for 50. So, yeah, Jalen Polk got a touchdown at the goal line. Good for him. But May is fantasy startable. Ramondre is. And really, none of his skill players are. Hunter Henry, a very disappointing 1 for 14. Caleb Williams, terrible. Swift, not much better. And yeah, nothing going for the wide receivers. Digging into the usage for the Patriots, really not sure. Was Kendrick Bourne inactive for this game? I'm not sure why he didn't play. The week before, the snaps were Boutte, Bourne, and Douglas. This week, Baker still not playing. Polk ran a little bit of routes. KJ Osborne was active. So I don't know, to be honest with you, if Bourne got hurt or if they were like, you know what, we're just going to give a new person a turn each week. If this was before the trade deadline, I would have said, hey, they're showcasing Osborne to trade him. Not what happened there. So really don't know what's going on there. Something to monitor. Antonio Gibson continues to play not at all behind JaMychal Hasty. That's tough. Austin Hooper, 14 routes, 4 targets, led the way. Yeah, I don't know. The Patriots, they won this game. Bears, Moore, Allen, and Adunze continue to run the most routes, get the most targets. Cole Kmet continues to dominate the tight end snaps. And then Roschon Johnson, a notable 20 snaps played. I mean, he only got 1 carry to Swift 16, but he did run 12 routes, playing third downs, right? Yeah, it seems like Nathan's saying, or PFF saying, Bourne was benched, which is confusing because I do think he was their best wide receiver, but he is returning from an ACL, so maybe they're just letting Bourne heal up. Oh, by the way, guys, did we know who Jamar Chase's quarterback was going into the season, or was that something we couldn't tell at all? Oh no. We knew that Jamar Chase's quarterback was Joe Burrow. Bills easily dispatch the Colts 30-20. Looks a little bit closer. The Colts scored a garbage time touchdown. Josh Allen, 280 yards passing, 2 interceptions. James Cook, 20 carries, 80 yards, a touchdown. Josh Allen also scored a touchdown, 8 for 50 on the ground as well. Mac Hollins led the way. Bills ruled out Keon Coleman. They were without Amari Cooper going into this one. And so that led Hollins, Shakir, and Curtis Samuel popping up with 4 for 35. Curtis Samuel did play outside wide receiver, with Shakir continuing to play from the slot. Shakir, 6 for 58. Mac Hollins, a good day, helping no one. Dawson Knox, 2 for 40. Dalton Kincaid, wide open for a 30-yard touchdown or so. And then Josh Allen overthrows him. Kincaid lunges for it, just misses it out of his fingertips. And then worse, hits his knee on the ground. And don't know if it's PCL, whatever, but my opinion is that he's probably not going to play against the Chiefs. He did return with a brace and played like 3 snaps, and then they shut him down. And so, yeah, I mean, the Bills play the Chiefs this week, so hard to say. Like, no sense putting too much of a workload on Shakir or playing Kincaid if he's doubtful when you have a matchup against the Chiefs. But my guess is that Keon Coleman already ruled out for the Chiefs game. I'm not sure if Amari Cooper plays, probably not. And then I would put Kincaid closer to doubtful, but something to monitor there. Colts, Joe Flacco has an okay day box score-wise, despite throwing 3 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor, 114 yards. Really, JT was shut down most of the day. He did break 1 long run, though, making the stats look good. Alec Pierce got the garbage time touchdown. Josh Downs, 7 for 72. Adonai Mitchell, with Michael Pittman missing this game, 6 for 71. Notable for Mitchell there. Usage-wise, Um, yeah, I mean, the Bills were not going to run Shakir 1,000,000% of the snaps, right? Where I see some people misinterpret the snaps and they're like, what? Why is Shakir playing 10 less snaps than Curtis Samuel? Well, the routes one is really what you care here. So Shakir, he's not playing in 12 personnel. He's not playing on blocking snaps, really, right? And yeah, when you got a game against the Chiefs, that makes sense. He literally might be their only weapon against them. Mac Hollins continues to play pretty decent, honestly, for his ability. Curtis Samuel, like not a great day, but hey, 35 routes, 8 targets. That's a lot better than he was doing to begin the season. And so he seemingly looking healthier from turf toe. Wouldn't be that surprised to see him become a little bit more fantasy relevant down the stretch. Kincaid barely playing again due to the injury, and Dawson Knox did replace him mostly with Quentin Morris playing in 12 personnel. Ray Davis continues to barely play. I think it's arguable that they should mix Davis in more. They're clearly going to sleepwalk to the playoffs. No one can challenge them in the AFC East. And so it makes sense to, take some workload off of Cook, get ready for the playoffs. Ty Johnson continues to play a lot as well. For the Colts, Adonai Mitchell just stepped into a full-time player without Michael Pittman. Josh Downs remains slot only, 28 routes run, but did get 10 targets. They continue to do a 4 tight end rotation. Awful. And then JT dominating the snaps with Goodson and Sermon barely getting in there. Although Goodson did score a touchdown. Moving on. The Vikings barely beat the Jaguars. Not great for the Vikings. 12-17. They do improve to 7-2. Sam Darnold, though, 3 interceptions, including some bad ones. Aaron Jones, 17 carries, 88 yards. I think he may have been banged up. Not 100% sure. Cam Akers, 13 carries, 38 yards. So he's the RB2. Ty Chandler, forget about him. TJ Hawkinson, I think, is the real story here. 8 for 72. He just seems almost fully healthy, which makes him a really strong pick in fantasy football. Justin Jefferson, a very disappointing 5 for 48 against a terrible defense. So, yeah, when your quarterback's Sam Darnold, you're going to have stinkers, even in good matchups. Jordan Addison, pretty much an afterthought. And then Hawkinson performed, and so did Josh Oliver. So they did the 2 tight end thing. Jags, Mac Jones got the start with Trevor Lawrence probably out for the year. ETN, 11 carries, 44 yards. So not really sure why they went full ETN in this one, but they did. Evan Ingram and Bretton Strange, the tight ends, getting targets here. Luke Farrell as well. Bad news for Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis. ETN not even getting involved in the passing game. So routes run here. The real interesting story is, so Hawkinson continues to play less snaps than Josh Oliver. As you can see, he did run 10 more routes than Oliver, though. So he's just not playing on as many blocking snaps. That should change as the season grows. But it also makes sense to let him slowly get involved here. 30 routes, right, just behind Addison for third on the team. That's great for Hawkinson. I didn't draft him a lot this year, just being like, yeah, he's injured, whatever, but he's looking very solid, especially with few tight ends separating. Aaron Jones continues to dominate the workload here. Cam Akers operating as RB2, making Ty Chandler a very bad pick in best ball land. Jags. So Parker Washington, the Christian Kirk replacement, he had been doing solid. No targets in this one. Gabe Davis got tackled at the 1-yard line, I believe. But yeah, he's more of a byproduct than Josh Allen than anything. Brian Thomas Jr., 3 targets, nothing going there. Evan Ingram, though, 23 routes run, 8 targets. So Mac Jones splits with the Patriots. Always showed him targeting tight ends and running backs. And yeah, I just think that's kind of who Mac Jones is, right? He wants the easy button over the middle. So good sign for Evan Ingram. Maybe a good sign for ETN too, right? He got 11 carries. Tank Bigsby got only 2. Dearness Johnson barely played. On his 12 routes, though, only 1 target. So maybe ETN's healthier now. Not really sure. Moving on. Chiefs escape with a win against the Broncos, where the Broncos missed a field goal as time expired to win the game. Bo Nix, 2 touchdowns, 215 yards. Audric Estime is the story here for the Broncos, 14 carries, 53 yards, operating as the RB1. Cortland Sutton, 670-1. He's had a solid stretch here. Devon Bailey got in there for a touchdown as well. A bunch of creative players contributed as well. The Chiefs, yeah, I mean, as I said, Patrick Surtain is legit. So Hopkins couldn't get anything going here. Mahomes, though, 266-1. Kareem Hunt couldn't really get anything going on the ground. 14 carries, 35 yards. He did get 7 for 65 in the air, though, so that helps. Travis Kelce, 864-1. And then, yeah, Hopkins, only 4 for 56. I do think Hopkins is like borderline a league winner going forward. I just didn't like his matchup against the Broncos, right? He's going to step into that Rashee Rice type role. And then a bunch of guys got a little bit here. Xavier Worthy was missed on a deep touchdown. You could say that almost every week. Usage-wise here, Juju missed this game again. I think he's practicing, so not sure what's going on there. There is some question, like if Juju returns, does that put Worthy off the field? Does that, is Juju just not part of the plans? Don't know. But Hopkins, only 5 targets on 30 routes. Worthy continuing to play. Watson continuing to play. Like, these two guys are perfect guys to open up the field for Hopkins and Kelce. And yeah, I think that's what the Chiefs offense mostly is going forward, right? It's mostly going to be these guys opening up the field, Hopkins eating in the middle, Kelce eating in the middle, and the running backs eating in the middle, with occasional deep bombs to Watson and Worthy to keep the defense honest. Noah Gray continues to play a lot of snaps as well. Kind of a trend league-wide here, that 2 tight end personnel, 12 personnel. Kareem Hunt, 44 snaps, 26 routes, 14 carries, 9 targets. Elite usage there, with P. Ryan and Steele getting almost nothing. Broncos. Lil Jordan Humphrey, Troy Franklin, like it's a terrible offense. You don't want anything to do with it. The only like the Patriots, the only guys you care about are Bo Nix. He's startable because of his rushing workload, although only 2 carries in this one. And then Audric Estime, the real story here, 26 snaps, 8 routes, 14 carries. Javonte Williams, only 1. Jaleel, only 2. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't into this idea of, you got to get one of a terrible offense running back in every draft. And yeah, I mean, what's the difference between Bo Nix and Drew Brees? Well, Bo Nix is going to run the ball. So the running backs aren't as involved then. And Javonte Williams reminding you that semi-expensive running backs are very risky picks on bad teams, right? Just like Devin Singletary is reminding you. Audric Estime, though, late round pick. I mean, that's like looking like a smash pick if this usage is going to continue, which it should. There had been positive coach speak for Estime for a couple weeks now. Adam Troutman continues to operate as basically the tight end 1. Meh. The Saints beat the Falcons. I mean, just insane, right? Bad news for the Falcons' playoff chances here. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but bad news for them being a legit team. Kirk, 306 passing yards, no touchdowns. Bijan continues to stack big weeks, 20 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler Algier also went 11 for 59. Algier was also stuffed at 3 plays at the goal line, and Bijan punched in the touchdown. So maybe you should just give Bijan the ball on first down. Who's to say? Drake London was questionable going into this game, but did get 8 for 97. Darnell Mooney, 5 for 96. Continues to be a smash pick in the late rounds. Kyle Pitts, fine day, 4 for 55. Saints, Carr, 269-2. Alvin Kamara, 17 for 55. MVS, the real story here, 3 109-2. I mean, I got a little bit MVS from Bill stacks. Just utterly hilarious that MVS with the Bills, nah. With the Chiefs, nah. With the Saints, Oh, yeah, let's go. 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara dropped a touchdown, like a 60-yard touchdown pass. Taysom Hill had like a 70-yard touchdown pass wiped out by penalty as well. So he could have had a bigger day. But, they built the whole plane out of MVS deep shots, Kamara dump offs, Taysom Hill dump offs, and then whoever Kevin Austin is. Not a player I'm familiar with. The wide receivers for the Saints Olave is probably not going to play. He's going on IR, I think, with the concussions. Just really unfortunate there. 18 routes for MVS, 16 for Tipton, 13 for whoever Kevin Austin is. Foster Moreau, 12 routes. Juwan Johnson, 16. Taysom Hill, 17. So, yeah, really the tight ends are going to be heavily involved here. Even Dallin Holker got in there. Alvin Kamara dominating the snap and workload. Adam Prentice, the fullback, getting in there a little bit. But, yeah, nothing really there. And then London, Mooney, McLeod continue to operate as the top 3 wide receivers. Kyle Pitts as the top tight end, usually running around 10 less routes than the wide receivers there. And then Bijan versus Algier, 61 snaps for Bijan, 18 for Algier, 20 carries for Bijan, 11 for Algier, 31 routes for Bijan, 4 for Algier. Niners at Bucks. The Niners narrowly defeat the Bucks here, and CMC returned to action. So, lot to look at here. Purdy, 353-2. The Bucks defense continues to be terrible, absolutely terrible. So yeah, play your quarterbacks, play your skill players against them. CMC, 13 carries, only 39 yards on the ground. So not as didn't get as much going on the ground here, but in the air, 6 for 68 for CMC. So huge receiving workload for him. Ricky Pearsall broke a long touchdown, 473-1. And Juwan Jennings continues to be a very solid player with Brandon Ayuk out for the year, 7 for 93. He's a borderline flex player in manage. Kittle, 357-1. Debo, 5 for 62. So really everyone ate here for the 49ers. Not everyone can score touchdowns, though. The Bucks O-line is awesome this year compared to last year. Like, just one of the best O-lines in the league. That's why Baker's having such a good season. Only 116 passing yards for Mayfield, though, in this one touchdown. Bucky Irving, 13 carries, 73 yards, a touchdown. Rachaad White, 10 carries, 31 yards. And then Rachaad White, 639-1. So, yeah, as I said, with Chris Godwin out for the year, I expected Rachaad White to get a lot more work in the receiving game. And that's been the case so far. He's just been very involved in the receiving game since Godwin's been out. It makes a lot of sense. He operates in that slanty type of field, and he's a legit good receiving running back, despite not being as good of a rushing running back. And that has value in the NFL. Cade Otton, 5 for 35. Usage here, the 49ers wide receivers, Jennings, Debo, Pearsall. So really great that Pearsall with Jennings back, 30 routes run, 6 targets. So he's just a locked-in top 3 wide receiver for the 49ers the rest of the way, which will have value, especially in best ball land. Ronnie Bell and Jacob Callan barely getting out there. George Kittle continues to dominate the tight end snaps. And then it was a huge question, what would this look like for the running backs? But in a close game, CMC dominated the workload. 56 of 64 snaps, 35 of 42 routes, 7 targets, 13 of 19 rushing attempts there, with Correndo and Mason only getting 1. Again, I think the difference this year is that in games the 49ers are blowing people out, that's the games where I think we get more Correndo, more Mason. But in close games, we're going to get the full CMC experience. Bucks. I do think Jalen McMillan practiced this week, but I guess he just wasn't ready. I don't think he was a healthy and active. So that meant Ryan Miller, Raheem Jarrett, Sterling Shepard, your top 3 wide receivers. Trey Palmer was demoted in this one or got hurt. Marcus Callaway, I guess they signed. Who remembers Marcus Callaway? Cade Otton continues to dominate the tight end snaps. And then the White versus Bucky breakdown this week. About 9 more snaps for White, 6 more routes run for White. 4 more targets for White, 7 targets compared to Bucky's 3. And then Bucky did get 4 more carries. He does seem to be the better runner and White the better receiver. So some good complementary action there from the running backs with both, capable in the other facet. Moving on, the Steelers beat the Commanders. I saw a very hilarious video this morning where it was like an AI fake of Russell, just like talking trash about, the Commanders. And so it was very hilarious. But Russell and the Steelers eke out a win here by 1 point. Russ throws 3 touchdowns, only 200 yards passing, but 3 touchdowns. Very nice there. Jaylen Warren, I do think he was stopped at the 1-yard line as well. 14 carries, 66 yards, though. So 4.7 average compared to Najee Harris's normal plotting self, 2.5 average. He did punch in a touchdown, though, on his 20 carries. Pickens, 591-1. Mike Williams ran the red line, 132-1. So Mike Williams' fantasy revival with the Steelers, not how anyone drew it up, but as his, rapport with Russ grows, I'm sure he'll play more. And yeah, he just, Russ is good at throwing the deep ball still, so Mike will have some fantasy relevance. Pat Freiermuth got a touchdown as well. Commanders, ho-hum day for Daniels passing, 200 yards. Eckler, 2 rushing touchdowns with Brian Robinson Jr. missing this game again. Terry McLaurin continues to have good fantasy weeks, 5 for 113. Luke McCaffrey was missed on like he would have had like an 80-plus yard touchdown if Jaden Daniels didn't overthrow him. So he continues to like almost have a good fantasy game and then not at all. The real thing to look at here is, so Mike Williams, only 9 snaps, only 7 routes. So clearly this is going to grow. Only 1 target he caught for a touchdown, right? So clearly this is going to grow. And the question is, who will it come at expense of? I think to begin, it will come at the expense of Calvin Austin. But then I do hope that logic can win out and Van Jefferson hits the bench where, yeah, I think you could have Pickens and Mike Williams as your outside and Calvin Austin as your slot. Seems kind of fun. Darnell Washington played a lot in this. 50 snaps, 13 routes, 3 targets. He's a huge dude, so great blocking tight end, running a little bit of routes as well. Pat Freiermuth, 5 less snaps, but did run 10 more routes than Darnell Washington. Najee versus Jaylen Warren, pretty much even snap-wise. Warren ran more routes, he got more targets, and Najee got 7 more carries. So Warren looking fully healthy off of the Steelers' bye, and that puts Najee and Warren in a 50-50 split with, pick your poison here for who you would prefer, where Najee more likely to get the goal line touchdowns, Warren, though, more likely to be involved in the receiving game. Commanders. Noah Brown, Terry McLaurin continue to run the most routes, most targets. Luke McCaffrey did operate as the clear 3, but they continue to do this 5 wide receiver rotation with Olamide Zaccheaus, Diami Brown, Zach Ertz, the tight end here with Ben Sinnott barely playing, John Bates barely playing. Eckler did dominate the running back rotation in a closer game where, we did see Chris Rodriguez got a lot of work last week, but that game wasn't close. So 23 routes run for Eckler. Only 1 target, though. 13 carries, 2 touchdowns. That's going to help, of course. Chargers at Titans. Chargers win pretty easily, 27-17. Will Levis returned, threw 2 touchdowns. Spears and Pollard, not much going in the rushing game. An okay game. Calvin Ridley continues to get a huge bailout with Hopkins traded to the Chiefs where, yeah, they're just, the Titans are like, you know what? Our season's over. Let's just throw the ball to Calvin Ridley. So he's had a nice fantasy stretch. I'm still highly skeptical that he's going to be a guy you want in the best ball playoffs where, can he have a good game? Yes. He has a pretty decent schedule too, but, you would probably still rather have the running backs at his cost. You'd rather have a lot of the other wide receivers at his cost. But hey, he's a healthy player and he will be the dominant target on the Titans. But, how valuable is that? No one else did anything. Chargers, Herbert, 164 and a touchdown, also scored a rushing touchdown. So we are getting a more Konami code, meaning rushing quarterback out of Herbert, which is logical. His athletic profile is similar to like Josh Allen. He's just never run in the past. And like maybe someone told Herbert, like, hey, bro, if you want to, perform like Allen, perform like Mahomes, you got to run a little bit. Gus Edwards, I see this really got some people in a tiffy that I posted this, but Gus Edwards remember, he had unreported offseason surgery and was incredibly terrible to start the year, like one of the least efficient running backs. And so it's really great to see Edwards go 10.55, 5.5 average. So, 5.5 yards per carry is like really, really good. So it's only one game, but the Edwards picks looking far less dead where, like a week ago, I would have told you all those picks are dead. And so, yeah, this is hard about the NFL where, they're just not going to report injuries. And so would I have drafted Gus Edwards if I knew he had, high ankle surgery, I think it was? No, but he's looking healthy now. J.K. Dobbins, not efficient today, 15 for 50. He did get heavily involved as a passer, though, so he's been a very solid pick, or, only 3 for 5, but he has been a very good pick, but not efficient. Wouldn't be surprised to see him lose some work. Hassan Haskins, of course, got the goal line rushing attempt, 2 for and a touchdown. Dobbins got stuffed a couple times there. The thesis of Gus Edwards was that he would get goal line touchdowns. So not great that they gave Hassan Haskins it. Now, the question is, did they give Hassan Haskins the rushing a touchdown because it's a revenge game? He used to be a Titan. Probably, right? I do think Gus will probably get that, or Dobbins, in the future. Receivers, Quentin Johnson continues to be uncovered and score touchdowns, so he's paying off somewhat in fantasy. Nothing really else going for the Chargers in an easy game. Again, like in games that they're just going to win easily, they don't want to score 40. They just want to win the game. DJ Chark did see his first action, 1 snap, so that will grow. Who will it grow at? I don't know. Jalen Reagor was signed to the active roster off the practice squad with, I think, Simi Fehoko released or on IR or something. Will Dissly continues to dominate the tight end snaps. 16 routes, 6 targets compared to almost nothing for Hurst. And then the Edwards versus Dobbins breakdown was 15 carries for Dobbins, 10 for Edwards, 17 routes run for Dobbins, 2 for Edwards, 3 targets for Dobbins, 0 for Edwards. A lot more snaps for Dobbins, which maybe that changes. Kamani Vidal was inactive, by the way, in this game. So, clearly the coaching staff prefers Edwards. And yeah, I think like if you are a big J.K. Dobbins guy, I think this should be encouraging for you where you don't really want Dobbins handling every single running back carry. He's just not going to hold up like that, right? You want Edwards to take some between the 20s work. Now, you don't want him to take goal line touchdowns, and I think he will. So hard to say what that's going to be. Also, wouldn't surprise me if Hassan Haskins is the inactive going forward and Kamani Vidal's active. Again, just the revenge game narrative there. Titans, Westbrook-Akine, Tyler Boyd continue to be your top 3 wide receivers without Hopkins. None of them getting too involved, though. It's pretty much just Calvin Ridley targets. Chigakonkwo, Josh Wiley were your top 2 tight ends this week. Tony Pollard versus Spears, a very even breakdown, like pretty much just all the way down the middle. So it is a pure split with Spears healthy. Cardinals at Jets. I need to refill this water. I'll be back in 2 seconds. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Cardinals at Jets. Cardinals destroyed the Jets, pretty much just ending their any playoff hopes the Jets had. 31-6. Rodgers, terrible. Breece Hall, not much better, 10 for 52. Braylon Allen, 7 for 27. Devontae Adams got targeted a ton. His expected fantasy points off the chart, only 6 for 31 in real life. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 41. Cardinals, Kyler Murray, a good day, 266 and 1. After not being great to start the year, Kyler's been playing much better. Trey Benson, heavily involved in this one, 10 carries, 62 yards. I don't recall if those were coming early or if those were coming in garbage time. But it's, as someone who's drafted Trey Benson, it's just great to see him involved at all. He scored a touchdown last week as well. James Conner, not an efficient day. 12 carries, 33 yards, 1 touchdown, 2.8 yards per carry compared to Benson, 6.2. So hopefully Benson gets more involved. Kyler Murray, though, did steal 2 touchdowns here, 3 for 21 and 2 touchdowns. James Conner, 5 for 80 in the air. That will help the fantasy stats. Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends, 4 for 71. Marvin Harrison scored a touchdown as well. It seems like they did a lot of 2 tight ends against the Jets, which makes sense. The Jets are a bit of a run funnel, and so teams, they want bigger body types to help block. And so Zay Jones and Greg Dortch didn't run that many routes, 6 and 10 respectively. Trey McBride continues to dominate the tight end routes run, but Ryman and Higgins are getting in there to block. Trey Benson, 16 snaps compared to Connor's 32. 4 routes compared to Connor's 17, 2 targets compared to Connor's 5, and then 10 carries compared to Connor's 12. If you remember, DeMarcado fumbled last week, and maybe that is why we're seeing more Benson this week. I could see them being like, okay, you fumbled last week. It's Benson's turn. And so, yeah, the best thing Benson did last week was score a touchdown and not be the guy who fumbled. Jets, Adams and Wilson continue to dominate the wide receiver workload. And then without Mike Williams, without Allen Lazard, what happened? Well, Gibson and Corley both played. Gibson ran 6 more routes than Corley. Corley did get 1 more target than Gibson. If logic wins out here, I think Corley should start to play more than Gibson. Clearly, the Jets are not going to make the playoffs, though, so it doesn't matter. But, you should be developing your 3rd-round rookie over an undrafted free agent. Tyler Conklin, continues to play a lot, but disappointing tight end pick. And then Breece Hall versus Braylon Allen, 27 routes for Breece, 10 carries, 7 carries for Braylon, only 5 routes. Breece also played a lot more snaps. Eagles destroyed the Cowboys. And yeah, the whole Cowboys offense pretty much dead with Dak Prescott on IR. What are you going to do? Part of the game. Hurts, 202 and 2 in the air. Also scored 2 touchdowns with Saquon being down at the 1. So it's kind of funny where, Saquon's clearly been an awesome pick, but the thesis that Hurts is going to steal a lot of touchdowns, also true. He's scored like 6 rushing touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. Saquon, 66 yards on the ground, no touchdowns. Will Shipley got involved in garbage time. So did Kenneth Gainwell. A.J. Brown, 5 for 109. Dallas Goedert returned from his injury, 225 and 1. Johnny Wilson got a touchdown as well. Cowboys, oh man, it's rough. Cooper Rush, 13 attempts, 45 passing yards. Now, the Eagles' defense is a lot better than last year, but yeah, it's bad. And, Trey Lance got in there, which, Trey Lance might be fun fantasy-wise, but I don't think for if you're holding out hope that CeeDee Lamb's going to be a good pick, you probably don't want Lance being your quarterback. Rico Dowdle, 12 for 53 on the ground. That's pretty nice. Zeke got in there. I think Zeke fumbled at the 1, too. Ferguson also fumbled, 4 for 24 in the air. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 21. I mean, like, the Cowboys are so down bad that Micah Parsons is out there saying that he's like, yeah, Mike McCarthy, like someone asked, I think, about Mike McCarthy, the coach, and he's like, Mike McCarthy's going to be fine next year, alluding that he won't be the coach. It was just a very damning quote. And so some people are saying that Deion Sanders, an ex-Cowboy, should go be the coach there next year. Routes run. Sean Dotson continues to be a sacrificial X. Goddard didn't play as much as he was pre-injury, with Grant Calcaterra equalizing him in snaps, running 10 less routes. So somewhat notable there. Gainwell and Shipley, again, this probably came when the game was out of hand. Cowboys, I don't know if we care, but Tolbert, Lamb, your dominant route runners. Brooks getting in there a little bit. Flournoy, Jalen Cropper, not a guy I've heard of before. Jake Ferguson, the dominant tight end. So he might have some like PPR scam appeal. And then Rico, 31 snaps, 15 routes, 12 carries. The dominant running back. He might have an okay week or two, but whole Cowboys offense is in disaster zone with Dak Prescott out for the year. I saw some clowns trying to victory lap that. I mean, yeah, when the quarterback gets hurt, the wide receivers don't do well. Lions at Texans. I fell asleep in this one. Nope, not Cowboys. But somehow the Texans lost. I think I turned this one off when it was the Texans were up 23-7. And I missed a furious comeback where the Lions poured in 19 to win. So terrible for the Texans. Goff, 5 interceptions. Awful. 2 touchdowns, though. Gibbs, 19 for 71. David Montgomery, 12-32-1. Laporta, 366-1. Amon-Ra, 660-1. Laporta got hurt. I think Dan Campbell said week to week there. Jameson Williams returned, 3 for 53. Texans, Stroud threw a touchdown. Joe Mixon continues to dominate the workload. 25 carries, but very inefficient, 46 yards. Did score a touchdown, though. John Mechie, one of the stories of the week. John Mechie, had cancer, beat cancer, returned to the Texans. Hasn't really played all year. But with no Nico Collins, no Stephon Diggs, they finally played him enough, and he went 574-1. So great for Mechie. He was a second-round pick of the Texans. So, clearly a very talented player, played at Alabama. So maybe we're getting a Mechie breakout. I got a couple of Mechie teams. Schultz, 3 for 66. So ho-hum. Tank Dell, nothing doing. 5 for 39. Disappointing there. Hutchinson, your sacrificial X. With Jameson returning, Patrick and Raymond went back into the split where Patrick plays more on the outside, blocking wide receiver. Khalif Raymond plays more in the slot. None of them got any targets, though. I think Laporta probably got banged up in game, so Wright ran 11 routes. And then Gibbs and Montgomery. Gibbs played a little bit more. It makes sense in a trailing game script that you'd play your receiving back. And he got more carries as well. So he does seem to be taking very slowly over the backfield. The Texan side is more interesting here, where Hutchinson continues to play a lot, but again, he's like the sacrificial X. Clear out wide receiver, 4 targets, nothing doing there. And then John Mechie, 44 snaps, 27 routes. So only 4 less routes than Hutchinson, only 6 less than Tank. 6 targets for him. Awesome to see, right? Robert Woods, giving you nothing. Hutchinson, giving you nothing. You need Mechie to be something here if the Texans are going to make any noise. They should get Nico Collins back this week, but again, they have a late Monday night game, so I don't know. Tank Dell, pretty disappointing game for him. 9 targets, really nothing going there. That brings us, before we get into the best ball portion, to last night's game. The Dolphins keeping some slim playoff hopes alive. They're 3-6. I mean, if they had beaten the Bills the week before, they would be 4-5 right now. They'd be feeling in it. 3-6. It's very thin. They need to win almost every single game the rest of the way. Probably can only lose one, if that. But they are technically alive. Rams playoff hopes took a hit. Tua, one touchdown, one pick. Also made like on his pick, he jammed his head in there. Very silly for a guy with concussions. Achan, not the best efficient day. 12 for 37. Malik Washington, though, did score a rushing touchdown. So good to see for the rookie. Jalen Wright and Mostert barely going there. Jalen Waddle, 3 for 57. Jonnu Smith, 3 for 45. Was tackled at the 1-yard line, which Tyreek Hill got a touchdown on. 3-16-1. Tyreek Hill just looking like a bust, Call it what it is. Remember, old, fast guy, when that guy's a very fragile guy, right? When the old, fast guy is no longer as fast, that hurts. Broadcast did, Tyreek saying he has a wrist injury. He is saying that the wrist injury occurred when the police roughed him up before the week 1 game. I don't know if that's true. That is something I would say, though, if I was going to sue the police. But yeah, I mean, he did get roughed up. So the Rams, Stafford, just not a great day. Kyren Williams, 15 for 62. Puka Nacua, 9 for 98. Good day from him. Cooper Kupp, 7 for 80. Fine day for him. And then finally, the logic has won out for the Rams, and they're like, you know who we're not going to play anymore? We're not going to play the terrible athlete, Colby Parkinson. And instead, they're running out Davis Allen out there, who is athletic. 5 for 34 for him. So good to see. It took a while, but the Colby Parkinson drafters are finally being punished somewhat. They did get 9 weeks of a tight end, though. So the Washington versus Odell, they continue to split who is being wide receiver 3 here, with Odell running 7 more routes. Washington scored on an end around. Julian Hill played a lot. Durham Smythe played a lot. So I think they went heavy personnel to run the ball. Jonnu Smith, though, 19 routes, 4 targets. Again, tackled at the 1. Achan dominated the workload here, with Mostert looking like a bust of a pick. 7 routes run, 2 targets, 0 carries. Jalen Wright got 5 carries over Mostert. So we could be seeing a changing of the guard here for the Dolphins. It makes a lot of sense in a season where they're probably not going to make the playoffs, where Mostert, he's like over 30. He's also lost a step, another very fragile pick. And Wright, you drafted very fast. So it makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins to get Wright involved as the RB2 and just move forward with Achan and Wright as your 1 and 2, having 2 electric running backs for the future. The Rams, Davis Allen, 56 snaps, 44 routes, 6 targets. So he's looking like the Rams tight end going forward. Colby Parkinson barely played. Hunter Long barely played. Kyren Williams dominated the workload as usual. And then Demarcus Robinson, he had a sick catch at the end of the game, but other than that, didn't do much. And Atwell and Johnson got in there a little bit, with Whittington not playing at all. Phew. All right, so that is the usage. That was the usage portion. Now let's talk about some best ball. I like to do a best ball stream usually once a week at least. So yeah, this past week was obviously a good week for me advance rate wise, where when you have a lot of Jamar Chase, that is going to help things. I just had Jamar Chase ranked as my 103 pretty much the whole season. And so being, I think I was probably the only ranking provider to do that. In my heart of hearts, he was my 101, right? But I did think, okay, fine, like we'll do CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, I wish I was just like, no, it's Chase, but it's I think Dak Prescott's injury is a reminder that it easily could have been Joe Burrow getting ruled out for the season as well. And so if you're going to draft a ton of one guy, that is risky. I'm advancing 22 teams. I think I was at 18 the past 2 weeks. And I like to track the expected to advance. Last 2 weeks ago, I think I was at last week I was at 18.3. And it's a reminder that the expected to advance is a very fragile thing where, can you project Jamar Chase to score 55 points? No, you cannot. And so that's why my expected advance jumped 3 teams, which is significant, right? And so it's a reminder that, like, don't put too much stock into expected to advance. Chase, yeah, like he will be an advance rate monster, but he's going to be a chalky first round pick. Of my advancing teams, 14 are Chase teams, so hoping that the chalk comes through there. Chase is at a 45% advance rate, which is absurd, right? Like buys haven't occurred, so it's going to come down, but his expected advance rate is at 39%. Just absolutely insane stuff. A lot of people are being like, oh, Chase versus Jefferson. Yeah, but Jamar Chase has the better quarterback. And, my counter there would be like, hello, we knew who the quarterbacks were going into the season. So I don't want to hear anything about the quarterbacks. We'll just take a look at some of these teams. These 2 teams on 8:30, my highest scoring teams, are both stream teams, which I did post a link. So if you want to watch the 8:30 stream, it is linked in here. Where, both these teams are my highest scoring teams. So kind of funny. I was locked in that day. Title of the stream was Brandon Ayuk was never being traded. The highs and lows of that, right? So this team is a Burrow, Purdy team. ETN, who's looking better. Cook, White. White looking much better recently. Alvin Kamara and Swift. So a 5 RB team. Chase, Debo, Evans. Mostly avoided injuries here with like Evans going to return. Judy, Downs, both solid. Downs looking really solid. Yoshi Voss. I wouldn't be surprised if Yoshi Voss loses his job. But, he's giving you some weeks. Luke McCaffrey, again, he needs to score a touchdown eventually. Tucker and Raymond, they're very thin, but they can give you a spike. And then Komet and Likely, a fine tight end duo. This team is a Purdy, Rodgers, Mayfield team with Gibbs, Cook, Connor, and Swift. So kind of a unique, hyper-fragile team. Running back in the 2nd, running back in like the 5th, 2 running backs in like the 7th. And then A.J. Brown, Tank, and Flowers, the top 3 wide receivers. Mike Williams suddenly looking a little fantasy relevant. That's nice. Downs, a very good pick. McMillan, to be determined there. Once he returns from injury, though, he should have opportunity. Demarcus Robinson, he can give you a spike. And then also Tucker and Khalif Raymond. So I don't know what was in the water 8:30, but clearly I was like, Trey Tucker, Khalif Raymond, give me these guys. Kittle and Njoku, 2 smash tight ends. So another interesting team. Yep. Jamar Chase does get Pat Surtain week 17, but when that occurs, if they're going to single coverage Chase with Surtain, Chase could still dust them for a touchdown. This team does have stacks for the hater in the crowd. Purdy to Kittle, Rodgers to Williams. Williams was traded, so now Rodgers is naked, and Mayfield to McMillan. So it has unique stacks. As far, versus chalky stacks, which, like Mayfield to McMillan. Okay, McMillan's not worked out yet, but that's a reminder, like, hey, Chris Godwin got hurt. So, like, this team is strongly positioned to benefit from injury, from chaos, right? Don't have that many teams that are close to advancing. So I do think my advance rates will come down some. But, from looking at numbers of like 5 or 6 early in the season, feels nice that now that we've got a bigger sample, advancing anywhere from like 20 to 25 teams with me having no Derrick Henry, almost no Saquon, very little Kamara, like all these things feels really nice, right? Because almost by default, my teams are going to be unique. Not my Jamar Chase teams as much, with him in particular. But, the Jamar Chase and really any strong advance rate player, the real benefit of them is the ability to advance low advance rate guys, right? So in this case, Chase paired with Nico, right? Like Chase holding water while Nico returns. Now this team's a monster once Nico returns, right? At least with those two guys. Let's look at my exposures. And we're actually going to do this in the Underdog app so that we can go by position. Let's do it, dude. Let's have Chase take down another Millie. My big board teams doing okay there. I won't look at those until later. Okay. So quarterback. Let's see how I'm doing. Purdy, awesome pick. Trevor Lawrence, he's out for the season, so unlucky. Josh Allen, he's an okay pick, but the best thing about him is we're starting to lose quarterbacks, and some quarterbacks are showing themselves to be huge busts. Josh Allen isn't that, and the nice thing about Allen and Hurts is they're not Lamar, and so yeah, like Lamar has an awesome matchup against the Texans, but is it possible Allen and Hurts drop 30 and Lamar disappoints and now you got leverage on the field? Absolutely. So happy to have Allen and Hurts. Caleb Williams looking really, really bad. You just got to hope that firing Shade Waldron fixes things. Justin Herbert, a lot of whiplash with him where I was very convinced Herbert was a great pick and he's looking like a great pick now. He was so cheap for what he's producing. And yeah, now that he's healthy, he's looking awesome. May also looking like a great pick. Burrow looking like a great pick. Dak, he's out for the season. Daniels, great pick. Rodgers, not good, but he's playing. Love, good pick. Goff, fine. Stroud, not so great. Stafford, meh. Geno, okay. And then I don't have a lot of the other guys. Running back? Ford, he had his bye this week, but good sign for Ford that he played so much the week before. So hard to say what he'll be off the bye. He's certainly not like a league winner or anything. But could he give you a spike? Sure. Kind of disappointing though. Ray Davis. I mean, I did draft him in the 130. So CLV guys. Ray Davis. He's given you a couple weeks. He's a good pick, but he's not like consistent. Moss out for the year almost certainly. Shipley probably needs a Saquon injury, so a risky proposition, but a swinging for upside here, right? You can see the vision. Braylon Allen probably needs an injury too. They're just playing him less, but it would be logical for the Jets to play Brees less in the lost season and play Braylon Allen more, right? Not doing anything so far, but again, looks like he might be becoming the RB2 over Mostert. Cook, very good pick. Dowdle, been a great pick, but to be determined what's going forward with the Cowboys. Benson, been nothing to date, but he's starting to get on the field. Marshawn Lloyd, just need him to return. Looked like they activated his practice window, so obviously he's been hurt. Chase Brown has been a smash as of late. As someone who drafts throughout the year, at one time I had probably like 25% Chase Brown. And then as he got expensive, I drafted less. Gibson looking like a dead pick right now. Swift has been very solid. Kyron's a smash. Rashad White, huge whiplash here where he's given you a lot of revival as of late. Achane, a very solid pick. Edwards, kind of like Trey Benson, was nothing and maybe something now, right? 55 rushing yards. Obviously, that's not hitting your lineup, but it shows that maybe he'll turn into something. Algier, yeah, he's fine. Evan Hull, no. Bijan is Bijan. Roshan, looking very solid. ETN, maybe some fantasy revival going on for him. Brian Robinson, need him to be healthy. Yeah, I don't have a lot of the rest of the guys. Wide receiver, Shakir, been a very solid pick at cost. Keon, been a fine pick at cost. Luke McCaffrey. I mean, dude, Jahan Dotson gets traded. He plays like a bunch of snaps. He's had a couple touchdowns wiped off the board, but he's been nothing. So would be nice to get a spike week from him. Ayuk out for the season. Rome, maybe we get some more from Rome with Shane Waldron fired. Chase, smash. Zay Flowers, also a smash in my opinion. Watson, he could give you a spike. Kirk out for the year. Demarcus Robinson, he's been solid at cost. Most of my early teams have Demarcus Robinson. Didn't draft him late as much. Corley, he's playing now, so maybe he'll be something. Who knows what happens when Allen Lazard returns, but nothing so far. Curtis Samuel, nothing so far, but he is playing now as well. Tank, been pretty disappointing, but your hope there is that as the season goes, he gets less injured, or he recovers from injury more. Nico, an absolute smash, should be returning soon. Cooks, probably just done, probably out for the season. No sense to return him. Brian Thomas Jr., smash, but we'll see what it is with Mac Jones. Josh Downs, a smash. Probably got most of my Downs exposure after he was hurt. One of the few guys who's been a winner from buying the injury dip. Like the winners were like him, Addison, Hopkins, I would say. Like where a lot of the other injured guys have not panned out. DJ Chark, hey, we got one snap this past week. I mean, what are you going to do? Like when a guy gets hurt the week before the season starts? I still think if he didn't get hurt, he would have been a fine best ball pick, a la Quentin Johnston, to give you some touchdowns. And I think, from reading the beat reports, he was just going to start ahead of Quentin Johnston. So is what it is. Puka Nacua. Yeah, I mean, if I could advance like 2 Puka Nacua teams, that'd be awesome. Obviously unlucky there. DJ Moore has been terrible as of the Bears. Jermaine Burton, maybe something going forward there with him now playing. Amon-Ra. Ladd, very solid. Mike Williams, a chance at fantasy revival as well. So there's a lot of guys, we're coming up to week 11 now. And there's a lot of guys, right, that I listed who have absolutely nothing so far, who you could see, now they're actually playing some, right? And there's varying degrees of confidence in these guys, but Trey Benson, Mike Williams, Curtis Samuel played a lot of snaps this past week, right? There's so many, Gus Edwards, right? So it's just a reminder that who you think is going to matter in week 4, week 5, even week 9 is not always who makes the mark on the best ball season. Debo, very solid. Mike Evans should be back from injury soon. Palmer, Neighbors, okay. Hopkins, another win for the injury dips. He should be a league winner going forward. Walker, terrible. Marvin, meh. Reed, smash. Brown, solid. Tight end. Yeah, just a bummer that Josh Allen barely overthrows Kincaid. He was going to be on his day to a very good day. And then gets knocked out 5 minutes into the game on a would-be touchdown. Ferguson, looking rough for him with Dak out for the year. He's still going to play, but much worse thesis. McBride, very solid. Kittle, the best tight end pick of the bunch. Bowers, probably up there as well as one of the best tight end picks. Goddard, healthy now. Conklin, terrible. Likely, he's been okay. Sinat, been terrible, but there's still room there, right? Ingram should be solid going forward. Schultz, meh. Pitts, okay. Dulcich, terrible. Musgrave, need to get healthy first. Kelsey is looking very good, but I don't have a lot of these guys. Let's look more at some of the teams. Yeah, I mean, Malik Washington, right? It wouldn't be surprised for the Dolphins to deactivate Tyreek. Let's check out the Puka teams. So most are dead. 3 are in the mix though. This one's 35 points back. This is This team I really want to make the playoffs because it has Bijan and Puka, which is just a very rare combo. Love Mix May, solid. Chase Brown, Rico, Braylon. Like the only reason this team's not a playoff team this week, I think, is because the Jamar Chase explosion occurred, and this team doesn't have that. But it's just a very good team. Even Polk is producing there, right? There's just no zeros on this team. This one's 9 points back. Daniels and Stafford, JT, Chase Brown, Ford, Rico, Chuba, Will Shipley. So fine collection of running backs. Puka, Devonta, Terry, Calvin Ridley. Didn't even know I drafted Calvin Ridley. Brian Thomas. So a little mini stack there for all the money. Christian Watson as well. Demarcus Robinson. And then McBride and Jonnu and like Sinat's there. I mean, this team's pretty good, honestly. So should get Puka in there, I think. This team also, by the way, it's coming back to me, but I draft, every year I draft like one or two teams that are like my winning BBM2 team, which had JT on it and had it went like JT, Aaron Jones, and then wide receivers. And I don't think this one's it, but like my JT teams, I do remember purposely being like, okay, I'm going to try to create a team like that. I want to look at that team's draft, by the way. Just because the wide receiver firepower feels awesome. So I took Puka at the 107, JT at the 2.6, Smith at the 3.7, McBride 4.6, Terry McLaurin 5.7. Then I went Calvin Ridley, then Brian Thomas, then Christian Watson. So then Daniels, Chase Brown, Ford, Rico, Stafford, Snot, Chuba the MVP of the team, Jonnu, Demarcus Robinson, Will Shipley. Pretty solid draft. I want to look at that one other Puka team. This one's 26 points back. As Love and Kirk, Rashad White, who's solid right now. Moss out for the year. Benson, maybe something. Ray Davis can give you a week. Chuba, MVP of the team. Hull, nothing. Puka, London, Neighbors, Flowers, Myers, Wicks. Guys are all solid. Stacked more with Cousins, even though I barely drafted him. Pitts and Ferguson. Pretty nice. How many times did I draft Calvin Ridley? 6 times. DK Metcalf, rest of season Flowers or DK? Depends what you want, Matt, right? Like if you can live with the low floor of Flowers, I would take Flowers, but I mean, I'd probably DK Metcalf, honestly. Like he's just a very targeted dominant player on the Seahawks, a clear number one once he's healthy. Yeah, guys, anything you want me to look up, let me know. Let's see how my Kamara teams are doing. 2 for 9. It's not great compared to the field, which the field is at 10%. I do think I'm over advancing Jamar Chase teams, though, compared to the field. Let's see. I'm advancing 50% and expected to advance 40, and the field is advancing 45%. So yeah, I'm like +5 on Chase. Bijan. Ooh, 0 for 16. Ouch. But a bunch of teams close, within 30 or so. Mike Williams, probably not well. 4 for 16 for me. Mike Williams overall is at 15%, so I guess I am out advancing the field on Mike Williams teams. I got that going for me. He's on one of my highest scoring teams, one of my other highest scoring teams, This team, I think, hit him in the gritty is in this draft where he's 1 and I'm 2 in this pod. And this team's honestly looking a lot more solid now where it's like Chase, Evans is going to return soon. Brian Thomas, Hopkins is now looking like a league winner. And Curtis Samuel and Mike Williams were pure zeros, and now they're not pure zeros. So that at least they can give you a spike. And then Kelsey and McBride, Kyron and Chase Brown, plus a hodgepodge of guys. Burrow and Mayfield. Don't know why I drafted Will Levis, but I did. How far, we don't just look at squads. You have super chat if you want to look at a squad. How far back at this point is reasonable to come back from? I mean, I still think 100 points plus you can come back from. Is it likely? No, but like if a team 100 points above you has Chris Godwin and has like CeeDee Lamb, okay, that team's like toast, And if your team has like Jamar Chase and whatever, so it really depends. But I mean, in theory, there's no limit to what you can come back from, right? Like in theory, Jamar Chase could score 50 points every single week the rest of the season. Obviously, he'd be nearly 100% advance rate player then. Right? Because, okay, we got week 11, week 12, week 13, week 14. 4 more weeks. And then week 15 is the start of the fantasy playoffs where the buys, by the way, we're going to feel that where, okay, so teams on buys this week, Cardinals, Panthers, Giants, Bucks. So especially the Bucks teams, they're going to come back because not only are they not getting Chris Godwin, but they're also not getting Baker Mayfield this week. Blake Neighbors going to take a hit. Chuba going to take a little bit of a hit. Cardinals pieces. And then week 12, the Falcons pieces going to take a little bit of a hit. The Bills, the Bengals. There's no one really on the Jags, but the Jags. Kamara's going to take a little hit. The Jets pieces. And then week 14, a big one. The Ravens pieces will take a hit. The Texans pieces. I mean, there's no one really on the Broncos, but sure. The Commanders pieces take a hit. So there's still some buys to be felt as well. I don't know what those ads are. I think I said I'm fat the other day and it picked it up. Yeah, the Nico teams. I want to look at those. Because those are, like, to me, I'm just telling you right now, a healthy Nico Collins is going for 30 plus. He's going to be on the winner. So you, like, all else equal, give me a Nico Collins team in the best ball finals. So I'm advancing 19% of my 21 teams, which seems to be a little bit like he's a pure average advance rate and pure average expected to advance, which I think the expected to advance is low there. It doesn't understand Nico's is going to smash once he returns. So I got 4 teams advancing, 3 that almost probably almost couldn't. Interesting team. Weak at tight end now. But then these are the teams. 3 teams within 30. Can we okay, these teams probably dead. Not for sure, but probably dead. And then this team, what sucks is these teams are in third, but they're third but 50 points back. So Chase, Nico, this is a weird team. I lost internet and autoed Mahomes, so I stacked him with Justin Watson, which, I mean, Mahomes and Justin Watson, guys, Watson's running all the snaps. Yeah, I don't know. Probably not on that one. This one's 36 points back. Yeah, it's just too weak at running back. I mean, Gus Edwards, 5.5 points, hit the lineup this week. Jordan Mason looking like a 0 now. Keaton Mitchell, though, going to return. So it's probably too weak at running back. Don't want that team to really make the playoffs if I could choose a different one. This one, though, is 30 points back. Josh and Gino, Bijan, Rico, Tank Bigsby, Roshan, Braylon, Nico, Metcalf. So, yeah, this team's probably got a good chance to make it because Nico and Metcalf haven't been playing, right? Kirk out for the year. But if I can get both these guys back next week, then I think it has a shot. Keon missing this week as well. But it does have, yeah, so it's like it's been getting killed at wide receiver lately due to injuries. Smashing at tight end, though. So I'd like that team to make it if I could. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy when you draft throughout the year to like get bored midway through and start dreaming up like crazy things. But hey, sometimes those crazy things work, you know? Let's look at some of the early teams. So this team drafted in May. I think the early teams are exciting just because they're different flavors of, you know, like what you could get back then was different. Rasheed Rice, unfortunate. Jonathan Brooks, like maybe. Ricky Pearsall now looking solid. Let's check out the Pearsall teams. 1 of 8. Womp womp. This team 5-point backs though. Man, Adonai Mitchell didn't even hit the lineup this past week. I guess because Brown, London, and Pearsall did. Michael Pittman, I mean, I barely drafted Michael Pittman. Probably like twice or less. Twice, yeah. Who's some guys you guys think will be on the winner of the best ball finals? Yeah, I'm not counting Brooks out, but it's not great to date, right? I don't think anyone thought he wouldn't be anything this far. I actually don't think I drafted a ton of him in this, but I did draft a lot of him in other places. And that, like, I think I have a lot of him on drafters, which doesn't, you know, total points. But the reason why I have so much more on drafters is he was just like half a round or a round cheaper. And so it's just a reminder that like little changes in the market can really change your player exposures. Hopkins, yeah, let's check out the Hopkins teams. He's a guy who I started into the year with, and then I started drafting after he got hurt too. But I just didn't draft as many best ball manias late in the year just because I drafted more throughout the year. So firmly advancing 2. Burrow, Mayfield, Levitt. Yeah, we already looked at this team. That's the hit him with the gritty one. And then this team firmly advancing as well. Likely Sanat, Janu. I think we already looked at this one too. But it's a good team. Hurts and Purdy. Cook, Kamara, Pollard, Mason, Bucky, P-Rhyme. So varying degrees of good running backs there. A.J. Brown, it's going to get Nico back. It has Tank, Rome, Hopkins, Shakir, Gabe Davis out there too. Likely Sanat, Janu. There's worse tight end rooms out there. And then we got some teams that are like 40 points back. Chase, Hopkins, Keon, bad. McBride and Kincaid. Achane and like to not be advancing an Achane, Kyron, Chase team is almost impressive, right? And Chase Brown, right? So it's like smash, 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 Joe Burrow smash, Chase smash, Gibson and Foreman terrible, but who cares? And then it's just it's just not getting any wide receiver points. But it will now because Hopkins and Chase are hitting the lineup every week. And so you really only need one of these guys. But like got cute, did Odell and Malik with Tua. Did a Walker for whatever reason. So very funny team, honestly. It's like a nice team that's also terrible, man. Pacheco, I don't have a lot of Pacheco. I don't think he's returning either. 0 for 11. Guess I did have some. Someone said Chase Brown. Let's check out the Chase Brown squads. 23 teams. Like, yeah, he was one of my highest drafted running backs. Only advancing 5 of them for 21%. It's got to be under the field by about 3%. teams that are close. 9 points, 5 points, 47. They really announced that Pacheco's coming off IR. I just don't. It just doesn't seem that logical to me for them to run him out there. They are planning to designate him to return. So they haven't actually done it yet. They're planning to do it. Or I guess, no, now they're saying they are doing it. But yeah, I still have doubts that they're going to play him. All my Pacheco teams are nearly dead anyways. I don't think, like, Lamb's been pretty bad pick anyways, so. And I just didn't get the 101 or the 102 that much, so kind of dodged the bullet there. This one is advancing. Pretty good team, honestly. John Mechie, shout out. Mechie barely drafted. I mean, this team looks really good, honestly. Running back, a little iffy. Christian McCaffrey, I don't think I have anything in the mix. I only had 6 to begin, but yeah, I mean, 170 points back. Let's see. So it's Love only. Trevor's out. CMC, Walker, Swift. So honestly, like 3 good running backs now. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Jaden Reed, Darnell Mooney. I feel like this team shouldn't be so far back, but you know why it is? It's because Kenneth Walker missed time 2 to start the year, and Swift was terrible to start the year. So it was getting like no points at times, but now is getting points. Because it has like Mooney, you know, Kupp missed time too. It's too many guys missing time. Bingo, baby. Bingo bongo. Christian Watson goes for 30 week 17. That's speaking my music, man. 3 for 26 there. A Watson spike week in the playoffs from your lips to God's ears. Oh, yeah. Everyone's advance rate dropped with Chase. Deontay Johnson. I didn't draft any Deontay Johnson on Underdog. 4 teams. They're all dead. Yeah, okay. So I'm advancing 22, and I guess we'll just count the teams under 40 points. Right? We got 11. Yeah, we'll say under 40. Need to make up 10 points a week that way, right? Obviously, you can come back for more, but that's just what we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 22 advancing and 12 close. I also have a lot of teams that are advancing that, like, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 of my advancing are within 40 of not advancing. And then 12 of my not advancing are within 40 of advancing. So favorable numbers there as far as like picking up another advance rate guy. Week 12 should be a bad advance rate week for me, though, because I have a lot of Bills and I have a lot of Bengals, right? So the Christian Watson game, man. Yeah, it's like I have my Jaden Reed exposure in the marathon. Like I got really into Jaden Reed starting in August, but I just didn't have enough bullets to ever get enough in BBM. But I do have them like a ton in the marathon. Not that that matters. Those teams are not going to win probably. I would show you them, but for some reason you just can't. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we went about an hour and a half breaking down the usage, talking best ball. Let's look at this team just because 7-7, lucky numbers. Purdy, Rodgers, White, Swift, terrible, honestly. Chase, Debo, Neighbors. I mean, sick wide receiver group. Sick tight end group too. But a running back room of White, Swift, and then like 4 backups, not great. DK, no, it's just not easy to show the DK Millie teams. Probably won't be, if I get a DK Millie team to the semifinals or finals, I guess we'll scope it out, but it's just a pain to show those. So compared to a nice tool like this. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like, hit the subscribe, help me out on the road to 6K subscribers. We'll be back tomorrow with Davis for more best ball talk. Check you out then. Peace. And the link to join my Discord is below for anyone new.